Okay, good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for being here today. Welcome to the Universitas Pajajaran International Office event, How to Write Academic CV for International Scholarship with Dr. Kingsley. We would like to say thank you to all of you for your enthusiasm. We have received over 350 responses on our registration form, and in this room, there are already about 88 participants from all across Indonesia and some from abroad too. It is an honor for me to become the master of ceremonies of this event. Hello, my name is Uluna Faridihati. I'm from Universitas Pajajaran. Before we start this event, we would like to inform you about some rules. Okay. The rules on screen. So, the rules are, first, participants have to make sure that your microphones remain off during this event. Second, if you have any question, please let us know through the Zoom chat feature. We'll choose several questions to answer later during the Q&A session. Third, finally, in order to receive the e-certificate for participants, please fill in the survey in the link that we will share. Okay. Next, we would like to invite Dr. Roni Lesmana. Yes, we would like to invite Dr. Roni Lesmana as the head of the Universitas Pajajaran International Office to give his opening speech for this event. Dr. Roni, time is yours.
Thank you. Very good morning. Salam sejahtera untuk kita semua. Thank you, Father, for very nice introduction. I'm very happy to be here and give a short opening message for all of us. I'm very happy not only because we have a chances to meet each other today, learn about something that's important for our next future life, but also I can be able to welcome my very good friend, Dr. Kingsley. He is my former senior in our laboratory in Japan, have a very prominent career in University of Calgary, almost 9 years stay over there. And I know we can learn a lot of things from his character, his patience, his commitment. And then today, I'm very happy that Dr. Kingsley will share about his experience to write academic curriculum vitae, this is very important for all of us. I thought maybe today, none of us attendee in this meeting has a bigger dream to study abroad in Europe, the United States, example. But again, it will come to you in the future. One day you will think over that, you say that, okay, this is maybe the time for me to seek a new experience, to understand more about the world, get more understanding. I need to learn outside the country. And then whenever you decide and have the eagerness to learn outside the country, then we need to have the ability to write properly the academic curriculum vitae. Thus, inviting Dr. Kingsley here is our fortune, and then we can learn a lot of experience from him, how we should put our data properly, arrange it with a good sentences. So all the people who read that, people with interest, what I mean, the supervisor, the professor, the academic leaders will get excited when they read about yourself written in the CV. Without further ado, and again, with the blessing of God Almighty, I'm very happy to open our activity today to learn about the academic curriculum vitae writing. And then I'm very happy also to welcome with honor Dr. Kingsley to speak and share his experience among of us today. So I'm happy with all the support that given by the committee. I'm happy with all the support given by our strategic partner, Dr. Kingsley. I'm happy also with the support given by our university, the system, the IT, and the facilitation, which is maybe some of us did not see that. But again, this is today happened because of there is a blessing from a God. So therefore, let's use the moment, let's use the time for study and understanding about what the material and the message will be delivered by Dr. Kingsley. Enjoy, guys. This is your moment. Unboxing yourself, learn a lot of things, and change the world. Thank you. Good morning.
Okay. Thank you for the speech, Dr. Rani. Oh, I like that word, unboxing yourself. Hopefully, like Dr. Rani has said, we can all get a lot of insight on writing CV for our future international scholarship from our amazing speaker, Dr. Kingsley. Okay, so our amazing speaker for today's event is Dr. Kingsley from the University of Calgary, Canada. And this event will be moderated by our special moderator, Indah Apriliani Sandra. Indah is a student from Universitas Pajajaran majoring in food and technology. In food technology. She has many experiences, including an internship as an event developer at the UNPAD International Office starting from September 2020, and a research and development intern at PT Sinar Sosro from July until August 2020. For her organizational experience, starting from January 2020, she is the head of the Student Development Division at Himatipan Unpad 2020. As for the committee experience, she was the General Secretary of Federation 2019 from July 2019 until November 2019. Also, she has many achievements and awards. One of them is she was the finalist of International Youth Conference from ISEC Universitas Jember. So, without further ado, please welcome our moderator, Indah.
All right, thank you, Fada, for your introduction. And hello, everyone. My name is Indah Apriliani Sandra from Universitas Pajajaran. I will be your moderator for today. In this event, we will learn about how to write an academic CV for international scholarship with Dr. Kingsley Ibhazehiebo from University of Calgary, Canada. When applying for a scholarship, your CV or curriculum vitae serves as the first gate that you need to pass. A curriculum vitae includes your name, educational background, work, and volunteer experience. Your CV will describe your academic, professional, and personal potential. You need to impress the schools or professors to get an international scholarship. But how to do that? Today, we will learn from Dr. Kingsley about how to write an academic CV for international scholarship. Before that, I want to inform you that all of the participants can ask the questions to our speaker through the Zoom chat from now. And at the end of the session, the committee will choose 10 questions, and I will ask the questions to Dr. Kingsley. You may not ask personal questions or not subject-related questions during the event. And please remind, when you are asking your questions, please state your name, your affiliations, and then your question. Now, I will introduce you the profile of our amazing speaker. Dr. Kingsley Ibhazehiebo obtained his bachelor in dentistry from the University of Benin, Nigeria, and PhD from the Department of Integrative Physiology from Gunma University Graduate School of Medicine, Mebishi, Japan. He went on to complete his postdoctoral training in the Department of Medical Genetics at the University of Calgary, Canada. Currently, Dr. Kingsley is a senior research fellow at the University of Calgary, where he mentors both students and postdoctoral associates, and manages neuroscience drug discovery efforts. He also is the director for Drug Discovery and Pet Therapeutics Incorporated. It is a biotech company located in Calgary. Dr. Kingsley is a recipient of many awards, reviewer for two internationally recognized journals. Those are the Cerebellum and Frontiers in Endocrinology, and has written book chapters and scientific papers in the prestigious journals. If you want to know Dr. Kingsley further, you can subscribe him on YouTube at Kingsley Ibhazehiebo and follow on Facebook at www.facebook.com/ibhazehiebo.kingsley and www.facebook.com/infosessions with Kingsley. Alright, now without waiting any longer, I welcome Dr. Kingsley to make a presentation about how to make a good CV for international scholarship. Dr. Kingsley, please feel free to share your screen with us.
So I'll say thank you very much for such an excellent introduction. It's so kind of you to have introduced me that way. Really, I was just blown away. So first off, I just want to say I'm very glad to be a part of this webinar today, and it's my honor and my privilege to be able to have this interactive conversation, which I really hope will help somebody get to the next level in their career plans, in their academic plans. So today we'll be talking about how to write academic CV for international scholarship. And like it's already been talked about, we'll just go through all the different essential things we'll be looking at. So I'll just head up straight into my talk. So first, again, I want to thank Dr. Ronnie, my very good friend, Dr. Ronnie, for putting this together. So Ronnie and I come a very long way, from Guma University in Japan, where we are colleagues, and I'm so impressed, and I'm so blown away by the great work that Dr. Ronnie is doing at the international office. And also to just quickly thank the leadership of the Padjara University. Without them, this whole thing cannot hold. So I want to thank the leadership of the Padjara University. And also to just say it's great things that they are doing, putting Padjara University on the academic map globally. It's just an awesome thing they're doing. And also to thank the administrative staff at the international office for putting this together. And also just to say thank you to everyone who's taking time to join this webinar. So straight off, my name is Kingsley Ibhazehiebo. And like the moderator mentioned, so my bachelor's is in dentistry. So my bachelor's degree is in dentistry from the University of Benin in Nigeria. And after that, I completed my master's degree in human physiology from the same university before proceeding to Japan in Oduguma University Graduate School of Medicine to pursue my PhD training. That's where I met Dr. Ronnie. And then I went to Canada to complete my postdoctoral training in the Department of Medical Genetics. And my specialty is in drug discovery platforms, with emphasis on neurological disease conditions in mostly pediatric neurological disease conditions, things like epilepsy and autism and stuff like that. And currently, I'm a senior research fellow at the University of Calgary, and also I'm the director for drug discovery at Path Therapeutics, which is a biotech firm in Calgary. So that's just a synopsis of who I am.
Dr. Kingsley,
Yeah.
sorry for interrupt, but I want to let you know that please use slideshow because we can see the notes at your PowerPoint.
Oh, sure. Yeah. So yeah, I'll be doing that right now. So can you see my slides?
Yes, but in the beside there is a note for your PowerPoint. It is not full screen.
Oh, okay. It's not full screen. Oh, sorry.
Please click on the use slideshow feature.
Okay. Is this
yes,
okay?
like that. That's
Okay.
good. Thank
Okay.
you.
Oh, thanks. Yeah. And then, so this is just a picture of Calgary in the fall. Just a picture of Calgary in the fall. And Calgary, I would say, is a very beautiful place to school, to live, and to study. So is a thriving cosmopolitan city in Canada. And it's a very beautiful place to live. So I've been living in Calgary for many years now. This is my 9th year in Calgary, and I just love this place. And this is an area view of the University of Calgary, where I do my research and mentorship. It's just an area view of the university. And then this is the atrium of the Health Sciences building where the lab I do my research is situated. And then this is the lab, so the laboratories in the University of Calgary kind of like open concept. So the idea is that all the labs are open to each other, and this just enhances collaboration. And this is just a typical lab, how a lab looks like, with your bench and sitting areas. And then this is a zebrafish behavior facility. So it's just a part of the zebrafish behavior facility, where we can, because we do a lot of zebrafish research, so we have a very complete suite where we do things, with zebrafish behaviors and social behaviors and those kind of things with zebrafish, and just an attached microscopy room to the lab, a tissue culture room, and then our bioenergetics room for the lab, where we look at in real time how we interpret mitochondrial changes under different clinical conditions. Okay, so the learning objectives for this session today, first is to define a CV and just understand the difference between a CV and a resume, and then also to just further highlight why a well-written CV is super important. Again, to understand from the North American and the global perspective, the standard organizational layout of a well-structured CV, and then identify the essentials of a well-written and outstanding CV. Also, we're looking at what are the must-haves in your academic CVs and common CV errors to avoid. And this is very important because this is where, when your CVs are presented before the interview board, the scholarship interview board, so some of the things they're going to be looking at, they want to make sure that your CVs don't have these errors. And then the 3 most common CV errors from prospective international students, either for school admission applications or even for scholarship applications. And then also very importantly, what do professors look at for on academic CVs? And finally, one CV rule to remember. So we'll just dive straight into this presentation. And like I did mention, I'll try to be as brief as possible because I really want you guys to ask your questions, and then I really want it to be as interactive as possible. So first, what's the CV? I know that we've all written CVs. I'm pretty sure every single one of you listening to me has a CV, written in one format or the other. So I would say you have a very broad sense of what a CV is, what it should look like, and stuff like that. So I'll just be filling in the nitty-gritties and the very fine and essential details I'll be filling in. So a CV is a longer academic diary that includes your name, your address, your contact informations like your emails and phone numbers. Of course, it includes all your experiences, your educational experiences, your work experiences, your training, your certifications, your workshops attended, your publications, your conferences attended, and all that stuff. So it's a holistic package that speaks very clearly and essentially to who you are and what you've accomplished. So it's a longer academic diary. On the other hand, which is a distinguishing factor, a resume is just a one-page summary, a one-page summary that contains the work experiences and relevant background information to the specific job you're applying to. And that's what makes a very big difference between a CV and resume. So sometimes when people tend to kind of like mistake CVs for resume, they're not the same thing. So while a CV is a complete holistic diary, A resume is just a one page that speaks about just your work experience and background that is relevant to the particular job, particular scholarship, or the particular thing you are applying to. Now, you should note very clearly that for more than, I would say 95, 96, 97% of scholarship applications, they require CVs and not resume. So that must be very, very established that most scholarship applications, school admissions, they all require CVs and not resume. So your CV must be in top shape. So that is why, like I said, it's important that your CVs must be very polished and free from mistakes. So that brings us to the question, why is CV such a big deal? I mean, why don't I just write something and then just send it off? After all, it's me. You have all the details there. A CV is such a big deal because first and foremost, it represents you. So when you apply for that international scholarship, or when you apply for that school admission, many times the persons reviewing your application, they probably have not met with you in person. They've not met with you personally. But when they hold your CV in their hands, they are looking at you. So what they interpret about you and how that influences them to either move it to the next stage of the application and grant you your scholarship request, your school admission request, all depends on what they interpret in their hands, which is your CV. So you as a person, you're going to be judged by your CV. So it represents you. That's the first thing you must firmly establish in your mind. The second thing is that a CV speaks very much to your personality. It just speaks to your personality. So when I tend to review CVs, I can tell many times the personality of the personality of that person, just by reading through the CV. So as it were, you want to, at every single point in time, always put your best foot forward when you are making these kind of applications. Whether it's scholarship applications, which you're talking about today, or whether you're applying to that school for master's or PhD abroad, you want to make the best first impression. So a CV speaks to your personality. Now, very clearly, a well-written CV can help you get a scholarship. Very emphatic. A well-written CV goes a long way to help you get a scholarship or get a school admission. Why, on the other hand, it's also true. A poorly written CV can also close that door of a scholarship or a school admission. So it's important that you have a well-written CV. Now, let me tell you this. When CV or when Scholarship Review Board sits to review applications, it will interest you to know that many times, there are lots of candidates that probably rank the same in their CGPA. So let's say, for example, the criteria is that for you to get a scholarship, you must have a CGPA of, let's say, 3.3/4. Now, this scholarship is to be given to, like, let's say 50 candidates. You find that you have like 150 candidates that meet that CGPA requirements. That same number probably meet maybe the English proficiency test scores. What begins to separate one from the other? What narrows that list first from 150 to maybe even like 70? It's just the CV and the other attached documents. So it's very important for you when you're thinking about your career future, whether it's academic careers, whether it's job careers, always learn to put your best foot forward by having a properly structured and well-written CV. And again, very clearly, a well-written CV shows how much you pay attention to details. So if your CV is well-written, it means that you've paid very close attention to every single details that should be in the CV. And again, a poorly written CV shows that the person has not given much thought, and does not pay good attention to details. So these are some of the reasons why it's such a big deal to have a well-written and structured CV. Okay, so what then should be the organizational layout of a good academic CV for scholarship applications? Now, I know that probably if I was to do a survey of the different types of CV that the different participants have right now, on their computers, you're probably going to be, we're going to probably get to see a variety of different types of CVs, So what I want to just lay out here is what are the subtopics, the subheadings that should be in your CV. And of course, how you fill them out differs from one person to the other, because your academic experiences, your educational experiences, your work experiences is going to be different. Your volunteer experiences are all going to be different from one person to the other. But essentially, this is the organizational layout, that you should have in your CV. First, as always, you're going to have your name, your address, and your contacts, just for ease of being able to reach you. So if if the committee wants to reach you, they can easily just go to that email address and they can easily reach you. So that is the first thing. The second thing is the professional summary. Now, a professional summary is just like a 4 to 6 or 4 to 7 bullet points that highlights all your professional and career achievements, just some bullet points. I would say that a professional summary is a nice to have, but not a must have on all CVs. Now, for me personally, I always have a professional summary on my CVs, because in that way, when somebody picks up my CV, just looking at the first 5, 6, 7 sentences, it gives the person a complete picture of who I am. So whatever the person is going to be reading further in my CVs, the person already have like a summary, a synopsis of me. If I just looked at my professional summary. And of course, you're going to have your educational summary as well. Here you're speaking to the different, you're speaking to your educational achievements. So here you're speaking to, the school you graduated from, the year you graduated, and the department and the specific field of study you have. You're going to have in this summaries. Of course, for some of us, or many of us, you're going to also be talking about your work experiences, the different places you have worked. You are going to be highlighting those places and writing very clearly what your specific roles were, And I want to say here, which I'll be saying much later, when we look at errors to avoid, you need to be very clear. You need to be very concise when you write your work experiences. And of course, you have your research experiences. So for those of us whose academic endeavors involve either the bench research or the field research or questionnaire-based research, you're going to be highlighting your research experiences and very, very clearly always highlight what your role was. What did you do in that particular research? Always clearly highlight your roles. Let that be very outstanding. And again, your awards and achievements. So if you got any awards, different academic awards, even non-academic awards, please always clearly highlight your awards and achievements on your CVs. Because again, remember that these are the things that the review committee, scholarship review committee, school admission review committees are going to be looking at. So they want to see people who have these experiences. So make sure that yours is clearly highlighted. And then you want to also highlight your volunteer activities and experiences. So I do find that people usually take this part for granted. So I would say, please, your CV must highlight your volunteer activities. So every committee, whether it's school admission committee, whether it's scholarship committees, especially the scholarship committees, they want to see that you have given back, or you are giving back to the society. They want to see that it's not all about you, but you're also helping other people. So it could be things you've done in your department. Maybe you have like departmental positions, like student positions, departmental positions. Those are volunteer activities. It could be that you volunteer with a group of friends to just maybe clean your help clean the streets, help pick up garbage, those kind of things. It could be that you guys volunteer to go to maybe the seniors' homes and just help them, with different things. Now, whatever thing that you've done as a way of helping, as a way of giving back, you want to highlight them. Now, I will caution here that if you have a list, a very long list of such experiences, then probably select, let's say, your top 4 or your top 5 experiences on your CV. So you don't want to have like 20 volunteer activities or 20 volunteer experiences. No, just select the top 4, the top 5 in your CVs. And then again, you want to have your professional affiliation. So if you belong to professional societies, you belong to different professional societies, you also want to highlight that. For example, I belong to the Society for Neuroscience. I belong to the American Epilepsy Society. I belong to the Canadian League Against Epilepsy. So these are different professional affiliations that I have. So I clearly highlight those on my CVs. And if you've made presentations at scientific meetings and even webinars, you want to highlight that. Now, let me speak to that. So these presentations does not have to be like international presentations. No. If you've made presentations in your department, your departmental presentations are welcome. Your faculty presentations are welcome. Your school presentations are welcome. Your local presentations are welcome. So the different presentations you've made at different scientific meetings, you want to also clearly highlight these presentations. And if you've attended workshops, you want to highlight them. Very importantly, if you have publications, you want to highlight publications also, and although not listed here, as you begin to grow into your career, you also want to highlight your mentorship role. But I didn't put that here because we're talking about a CV for scholarship application, And then finally, you want to have the names and contact of 2 to 4 persons who are your referees that can speak to your academic and leadership competence. I would say that this is optional but advisable. So I've seen numerous CVs. Some of them have referees and others don't. It's something that I would say it's advisable to have on your CV. Okay, so what then are the essentials of a well-written CV? So what are the qualities of a well-written CV? So how do I look at one CV and I say this CV is good? And I look at another CV and say, no, this CV is trash, and then it's just kept aside. What are the essentials? What are the things that makes one CV acceptable and another CV not acceptable? The first thing you want to think of when you're writing a good CV, think about a good font and a good size. So I do find that at Times New Roman, Garamond, they make good font. For me particularly, I use Garamond a lot, because it's just an awesome font, for Garamond. So select a good font, select a good font size. So for me, I typically use font size 11 or 12 on my CVs. That's the first thing you want to do. A good font and a good size. The second thing you want to do is that your font and your size must be consistent. It means that throughout the sections of your CV, every single section of your CV must have the same font, must have the same size. Sometimes I see CVs that one section is Times New Roman and the other section is Roman, and one section is font 11, and that section is font 12. You don't want to be that person. You want to have a consistent font and a consistent size throughout your CV. The third thing is that the spacing and the alignment should be consistent. So the spacing between one section of your CV and the next section should be consistent. The spacing between, or how all the words start, they should all align on the left side. The dates should all align on the right side. So you should have consistent spacing and consistent alignment. That is very crucial. It just makes your CV very tidy and a delight to read. So have consistent spacing and consistent alignment on your CVs. And also be very, very clear and apt when you are describing your different experiences. So we're describing your work experiences, your research experiences, your volunteer experiences. Be very, very clear. So one thing I do find when I review people's CV, especially in their work experiences and sometimes in the research experiences, they just copy and paste one section and just copy and paste into the next section of their jobs. No. Every work experience should be unique. There's always something unique about the different jobs you have done. It could be in the same office. Let's say, for example, you were the manager in the research office. And then 3 years later, you became the senior manager in the same office. Now, although you're in the same office, your roles have changed. What you used to do as the manager and what you now do as the senior manager, they're different. So we are describing these two different work experiences, although in the same office, they must be unique to themselves. So you don't just copy what you did as a manager into what you're doing as a senior manager. No, that's not acceptable. Now, even if there are some similarities, there are still some very specific role differences, and these are the things you should be highlighting. So clarity when describing your work experiences, your research experiences, and other experiences is very important when looking at a well-written CV. And again, for students or for researchers, or for those who've done research, your CV should have outcome measures. So let's say, for example, you established a protocol during your research or during your research projects. What did that protocol you established lead to? Whatever it led to is the outcome measure, which speaks about your ingenuity, your productivity, and your brilliance. So, for example, while I was during my postdoctoral training at the University of Calgary, I established a novel molecular protocol to study neurology, bioenergetics, and behavior. Now, that protocol has become implemented as the standard operating procedure within the department. Now, that is the outcome measure. So when I look at this CV, I can tell very clearly that, you not just establish a protocol, but that protocol is now what is now used generally within the department. So which speaks to your ingenuity, speaks to your creativity, and it speaks to your brilliance. And these are the things you want to highlight in your CV. Remember, in your CV, you are putting your best foot forward. Now, very importantly, there should be no repetitiveness in your CV. So don't just try to fill in space and repeat, things again and again. No repetitiveness. And your CV should not be too wordy. So try to look for very clear words to describe your experiences. It is not the volume of your CV that matters, really, really, really. Honestly, it's not the volume. It's not because your CV is 5 pages or 6 pages or 7 pages that matters. It is how clear your CV is, how easy it is to read, how well organized and well structured it is. These are the things that matters. So don't be too repetitive and don't be too wordy. And remember, I can't stress this enough. I can't stress this enough. Please remember, every of your educational experiences, your work experiences, volunteer experiences, presentations, your publications, your affiliation, they must all have dates. Sometimes I see CVs, this one part of the job experience have a date and the other part don't. It's just unsightly. So make sure, please make sure to date every of these experiences. And it's always preferable when you start from the most recent to the least recent when you date them. So please just make sure that every of such experiences and affiliations, they are all properly dated. All right, so what are the must-have for an academic CV, for international scholarship applications? What are the things that when these scholarship review boards, when these school admission boards, when these professors take your CV, what are the must-haves? What are they looking for? What are the must-haves for scholarship applications? The first thing is academic productivity. Remember, you're applying for a scholarship, and scholarship is academics, right? So they want to see that you have been productive. They want to see that you have been productive. And the way you show productivity is, first of all, by your consistent high CGPAs. The second way you show productivity is by your awards and honors. So they want to see that your CGPAs are good. They want to see that you have the awards and honors, for master students, they want to see publications. In addition to your CGPAs and your award and honors, they want to see publications. So let's say, for example, you are applying for scholarship to go do a PhD, let's say at the University of Calgary, or you're talking to a professor, you want to come do a PhD in his or her lab at the University of Calgary. One of the first things this person is looking at is, have you been productive? So these are the things that it's important for you to have on your CVs. The second thing, if possible, they want to see publications. They want to see that you've contributed to scholarly knowledge. Now let me say a word on this. It's in as much as the journal where you publish is important, but that is not the most important factor. The biggest question is, have you published at all? The publication could be in your local departmental journal, it doesn't matter. It could be your faculty journal, it doesn't matter. It could be your school journal, it could be a local journal in your province, it doesn't matter. But have you published? So this way I'll be advising those who are on this career path. Whatever good data you have, please talk to your supervisor and publish them. Don't throw your data away. Publish them in your departmental journal, your school journal, your faculty. Publish your data, because these things are going to count for you when you begin to make your applications. And very importantly, for scholarship applications, they want to see that you have volunteered. You have given back to the society. You have given back to the community. It's not just all about you. You have helped somebody. You have helped a group of people. You've done something to make the life of somebody else better. So they want to see your volunteer activities. And like I said again, volunteer activities can be anything you have done for your community, for your society, to make the life of another person better. So they want to see those things. This part, which is the volunteer part, is big deal. It's a huge deal for scholarship applications. So when you volunteer, please make sure to keep the track of those things, because you need them on your CV for this kind of applications. So very importantly, this is where we begin to separate one CV from the other. So Your CV can have everything we've talked about. It can have everything we talked about, but yet it does not pass the test. Yet the committee does not take a second look at it. Yet the committee just look at it and then just keep it aside. Why? Because there are errors. So what are these errors you must have to avoid as you make your CV? What are these errors? So the first common CV errors, as I begin to just walk through it, is typographical errors. You want to avoid typographical errors. Typographical errors really, they are unpardonable on CVs. It shows that you don't pay attention to details, and really you can't get a scholarship with typos on your CV. So you want to avoid typographical errors. It's one thing you really need to avoid. You want to avoid grammatical errors, as much as possible, which I'll explain in the next slide. You want to avoid not dating or relevant training and experiences you've had. So poor or no dating of relevant training and experiences. You want to avoid that also. Always make sure your CVs are all properly dated. And again, you want to avoid unexplained gaps in academic and work experiences. Let's say, for example, you worked, you finished from university, and then you had a job, let's say 2018, and then the next time we're seeing your CV is, something about 2020. They want to know what happened between 2018 and 2019. So such unexplained gaps, you want to avoid them in your CVs. And again, you want to avoid lies or padding of your CVs. You want to really avoid this because this always has a way of showing up later and can be a really big trouble for you. Like I said, there's no justification for lying on your CV. Let your CV be who you are. Let it be that you can defend your CV anytime you are called upon. So you want to avoid that. And I want to really stress this next error, using one generic CV for every application. You want to avoid that because remember that different scholarship applications, they differ slightly from each other. So you want to pay attention to the very specific details of each school's application and don't use one generic CV for every application. So please pay attention. When you're applying to the University of Calgary, for example, or to the University of Alberta, or the University of Toronto, there are very little differences in what is required on the CV. So just pay attention and not use a generic CV for every application. So I would say when you've written your CV, proofread your CV many times. So just write your CV, take a break. Go do other things, just take a break from your CV. It could be the next day. Come back to it. You'll be amazed at the different mistakes you're going to catch, and do that for one or two times. And then have other people have to do. So when you finish writing your CV, you think it's great, send it out to 2 or 3 other persons who are your good friends or people who are above you, and have them critique your CV, have them look at your CV, have them proofread your CV and help to point out this mistake. It's very important to do this because when you do that, you can catch the mistakes that you cannot catch, they can catch, and you can avoid those mistakes on your CV. So what then are the 3 most common CV errors from prospective international students? These are the 3 errors that are very common, when you look at CVs from international students. The first thing, which may look minor, but it's common, is just spacing and punctuation errors. So lack of a space after a period is very common. It's very common. When I review CVs, or I even review manuscripts, from non-native English speakers, I find a lot of these spacing and punctuation errors, or even double punctuations. So these are very common errors. So you want to pay very close attention. When you write your CV, ask yourself, is there spacing and punctuation errors? Is there double punctuation? You want to avoid these common mistakes. The second thing that is very common is the improper use of capital letters. So just give an example, like I found your lab on the Department of Medical Genetics website, and I want to learn more about your work in zebrafish and mice to study hypothalamic development. Now you can see that, now this is taken from somebody's CV. You can see that This person is using capital letter for zebrafish, mice, hypothalamic, and development. And this ought to be small letters. It ought to be like, lowercase. So improper use of capital letters is a very common error that you want to also pay very close attention to. So I would say your CV should be proofread carefully and make sure that you use the appropriate, make sure that it's the appropriate use of capital letters. And finally, a very common CV error is alignment. Many times, all the lines do not start on the left at the same spot. So you want to ask yourself after writing your CV, do all the lines all start on the left at the same spot? Do all the dates on the right all align? You want to make sure that there's proper alignment of your CV. Because if your CV is sloppy, you're just telling the persons reading your CV that you don't pay attention to details. And paying attention to details is very important of being a student and a scientist. Now, as we begin to tidy this up, what do professors look at for in a CV? I just want this to be as interactive as possible, so I'm going to try and tidy up so we can ask our questions. What do professors look at for in a CV? The first thing any professor wants to see in your CV, believe me, is evidence of repeated excellence. Evidence of repeated excellence, not a one-time excellence. Oh, you did very well in your first year. They want to say that you did well in your first year, your second year, your third year, and your fourth year. They want to see, this repeated excellence can be things like your consistent good GPA and awards, like I did mention for master students, in addition to awards and publications. So they want to see that repeatedly you are doing very well. So I'll give a very short story. When I was interviewing for my postdoctoral position, what attracted the professor to my CV, was just my publications. She told me, Kingsley, I see that you have a lot of publications during your PhD training, and that is what got me attracted to you. And that was how I got that position. So they want to see evidence of repeated excellence. They also want to see that your life is not just about science, that you've participated in something more than science, So that is where your volunteer activities comes into place. This helps to give them a sense of your personality. Because remember that when you come, let's say you come to the University of Calgary to do your master's, your PhD, or you come to Canada to work after completing your training in Indonesia or in different parts of the world. One of the things you must understand is that you're going to be relating with people. So participating in something outside of science helps to give a sense of a personality. So it could be something as little as, oh, you are a half marathon runner, or you participate in 5 kilometer, 10 kilometer marathons, or it could be something more involved, like being the president of a particular initiative, on campus, or, just something more involved. So participation is something outside of science. It's very important, and they look at for these things, And then again, they also look at for skill sets and techniques, So if you have any research skill set, whether it's bench-based, whether it's field-based, whether it's questionnaire-based, you want to highlight your skill set. If you have a software skill set, you have to use different softwares or different programs, for different kind of research and different kind of asking different research questions and answering research questions. You want to also clearly highlight those things. And again, just a note of encouragement here. Whatever skill sets you don't have, you can always learn. So these are the things that professors look out for in a CV. And finally, as I tie this up, so I give room for questions, what is one CV rule you must remember? And this is important. So this could actually, you've done all this hard work, and, if you put every single thing in place and it's perfect. Now, if you forget this rule, all your work is just going to be waste. And I'll explain why. always send a PDF format of your CV. When you send a Word document, so if you're going to send a Word format, let's say for whatever reason they require a Word format of your CV, please always send a clean copy. So you go to a Word document, go to review, go to accept all changes, confirm that there's nothing tracked, and then you can send that clean copy. The reason is simple. If you send me a Word document of your CV, right, when I open it up in my own Word document, in many times I'm going to see all the track changes, all the different corrections you made, different, they're all just going to appear, and that is very unsightly, So the best way to avoid that, always, as a rule, always send a PDF format of your CV. So I'll be stopping here so that we'll have time to interact and take questions. And I'm glad to take your questions. And of course, you can follow me on these different social media platforms. So I'm happy to take your questions that you might have.
All right, thank you for Dr. Kingsley for the material. It is very impressive. At the start, Dr. Kingsley has told us about the University of Calgary. It is a very amazing university, and I hope that one of us can be there too. We learned the differences between a CV and resume, the standard organizational CV layout from a global perspective, common CV errors to avoid, and what your professor look for in a CV. Also, we learned that professors look for experience in relation to academic achievements, and
Hello, I'm so sorry. I think it appears that our moderator has some technical issues, so I'll be taking over for the question and answer session. So we have a question from YouTube. So on behalf of that person, I think I'll read out the question to you, Dr. Kingsley,
Oh, sure.
and you can please answer it. So the question is from Unita Ariputri, and she's asking, is it possible if we include our organizational experience in our CV, even though it's not quite in sync or very relevant to the job that we want to apply to? Thank you.
Okay, so when you mean organizational experiences, I want to think something like like a job or something, right? So for scholarship and for jobs, they are two different things. So for scholarship, every place where you have worked, you should include them for scholarship. It kind of gives a broad sense of who you are and your ability to be adaptive. So you're adaptable. So it means, let's say, for example, you worked, let's say, in a research laboratory, for example, and now you're working, let's say, for example, in the dean's office. It shows that you are adaptable. It shows that you have the ability to adjust to different work conditions. And really, people look for such persons who are adaptable. So I would say yes, include every one of your work experiences. Now, when it comes to like job applications and job CVs. Some is a little bit different, in the sense that, let's say, for example, your experiences most times I would say should fit in with the role of the job you're applying to. But I have personally seen persons who got jobs because they could show that they are adaptable. So they worked in different places, and that's what got them the job, even though where they had worked previously had no relationship to their new job. So I would say there's no straightforward answer here. So persons like some persons like to see that you've worked in different places because it speaks to the fact that you are very adaptable. Other persons want to see you work in similar positions or in similar occupations because they want to be very sure that you have all the specific skill set that's needed to do the new job. So the answer to that is kind of like yes and no. Depending on who is the interview board. But I would say for scholarship applications, please, every single place you've worked, let it be highlighted in your CV, And then again, for job applications, I think that they also will probably tell you some of the requirements that you need to meet. Maybe probably you should have like 5 years experience in this particular in this particular same line of work. Then you can tell that your other job experiences that don't match that specific line of job should be eliminated. Yeah, I would say.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Kingsley. I hope that answers your question on YouTube. So now the rest of our questions are on Zoom. We can permit, if you want to ask directly, you can raise your hand and then we can pick a few people. So you can turn on your mics and introduce yourself and ask Dr. Kingsley directly what your question is. So, but if you also want to ask questions, you can also ask in the question and answer feature that we have on Zoom. Okay, so just a reminder, please raise your hands if you want to ask directly. But I'm going to read another question from the question and answer feature. So this one is from okay, so this is from Dina Octavia. Are there any limitations about information on ourselves? For example, should we write only the activity on from the past 5 years only? And how many pages should a CV be? Thank you.
Okay, so Dina, I would say that probably at this level where you're thinking to do, let's say, apply for scholarships to like master's or PhD programs, there's really no limitations about information on yourself. Don't limit information to the past 5 years only. No. You want to be very, very concise. You want to be very, very complete about yourself. So you're going to start your information is looking at even from your university. So, your educational experiences and then to your work experiences. So don't limit them, don't limit it to just the past 5 years. No, be complete and be concise. Now, I had the privilege to have, looked at, so my professor, my professor sent me her CV, and that CV had every single thing she has done from undergraduate studies. I'm talking about a professor, a full tenure professor right now. Had every single thing she has done from her undergraduate days till, present. So this is like we're talking about over 20 years, put into a CV.
Very complete CV.
Complete, yeah. So don't limit yourself. That's one. So what about the number of pages to write a CV? So I would say that it's not a number. So there are no numbers. There are no limitations to numbers that you can write a CV. But I would say that you don't have to make it many pages just by repetition. Be precise, be concise, be very clear in each section. So it's not the numbers that anybody's interested in. Rather, it's how precise, how concise, how clear, how well structured that every person is interested in. So I would say there are no limits to the number of pages a CV can be, but be precise, be concise as much as you can. Now, there are some scholarship applications that will tell you 3 pages of CV. Now, in that case, when they give you a very precise number of CVs, then make sure to tailor your CV to those number of pages. But in the event that it's not specified the number of pages, then put out your complete information there and don't be too repetitive. Don't be too wordy. Just make sure that your information are precise, they are concise as much as possible. I believe that answers your Dina's questions.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Kingsley. No one has raised their hand yet, but just a reminder, if you're watching from YouTube, you can also let us know in the comment section in the live chat if you have any questions, and our admins will get to you. So let me read another question. This one's from Siti Aisha. Hello, Dr. Kingsley. I'm Siti Aisha. I would like to ask, when we include our profile photo in the CV, are there any specific types of photos that we should put? A typical passport photo or a non-passport photo? I think this question is asked because generally in CVs and resumes in Indonesia, you are expected to place a photo of yourself.
Oh, okay.
That's the norm. So please let us know if this is also the same abroad.
No, in Canada, no. In Canada, no. In North America, no. Yeah. So over here, your photos are not required on CVs. They are not required on CVs. Now, I'll be very candid. In my 9 years here, I've never seen a CV with a photo on it. I've never seen a CV. So I would say that for your CV, because like if you send me a CV, your photo is on it, right? It's kind of like, I'm like, what is this? Yeah, but I'm glad to know that that is the norm in Indonesia. That is the norm. So what I will advise is that I think it's important to just have an idea of what is the norm where you're sending your CV to, because if you send a CV with your photo on it, it kind of actually looks out of place here because that is not what is expected of a CV here. Whereas on the other hand, in Indonesia, that is what is expected of you to do, So for international scholarship applications, I think you don't need to have your photo on a CV, is what I would say. You don't need to. It's not required, for international scholarship applications, especially in North America, where I'm currently based. They don't need your photo. And I know about Europe also. You don't need your photos on CVs. Yeah.
Okay. All right. So thank you again, Dr. Kingsley, for answering that question. I hope that answers Siti's question. So we have a couple more questions from, let's see, this is from Mary Anissa. Thank you for your excellent presentation. I want to ask you, can we input if we are the co-author of a publication? Is there any difference if the publication we write as an author or as a co-author? Thank you.
Oh, no. So every publication that has your name that you've contributed to, please put it there. It doesn't matter. I mean, it's always best if you're first author, but it doesn't hurt if you are a co-author or a second or a third author. As long as you have a contribution to that publication, please put it there. So whether it's co-author, whether it's first author, every single publication that has your name on it that you've contributed to, you should include on your CV. That would be this very straight and direct answer to your question. Put it there. If you contributed to it as a co-author, as a first author, as a second, a third author, please have it included on your CV.
Thank you, Dr. Kingsley. So this is, our next question is kind of a joint question from Amira Zahra and Naninda Brilliana Tidina. So they're asking, is it okay if we write our interests or hobbies in a CV, and or should we just write achievements like participation in running in a 10K event? Or and if we add our hobbies and interests, would they have a big impact on the quality of the CV? Thank you.
Okay, so you're talking about interests and hobbies, on CVs. Yeah, there is a place for interest and hobbies.
Mm-hmm.
There's a place because those are the things you do outside of science and academics and your books and stuff like that. And it's important for the person, either the scholarship board or the school admission board. It's important for them to know. It gives them a sense of who you are. Now remember that, let's say for example, you're coming to school at the University of Calgary, first of all, you're going to be dealing with a lot of academics, which is like, your schoolwork and stuff like that. But remember that you don't live in isolation. You relate to people. Calgary has its own culture. So your ability to integrate into that culture is very important for your success. The ability to know how things work, how to relate to persons, how to talk to people, how to the proper language, the tone, and those kind of things are all going to be very important. So having an idea of who you are outside of your academics, it's very important. So yes, I would say include your hobbies, and so there's a place for it, include it, let it give the persons a sense of who you are and what you do. And then again, with that great impact, the quality of your CV, that gives the board a sense of who you are, and what you do. But what greatly impacts the quality of your CV are the things I talked about, academic achievements, publication if you have them, your volunteer activities, and how well structured your CV is. Now, remember that in addition to all this, every scholarship application or every scholarship offer has basic academic requirements. So when you meet those academic requirements and you have a properly structured CV, your chances increases astronomically. So like your high CGPAs, your academic awards, they greatly increase your chances of a scholarship, greatly increase your chances of a scholarship. And if you then add your volunteer activities to it, you kind of like just seal the whole deal, right? So those are the things that you need to really, add, and then it's a balance between your academic achievements, your publication and your volunteer. For example, if I was to interview a candidate, right, for let's say for a master's position, for a master's position, right, I would interview two candidates. Now, one candidate have very high CGPAs, has all the awards, but that is where it ends. There's nothing that shows that this person can relate with other persons. And that candidate will not have as high as the GPA and the awards, but there are evidences from the person saying that this person can relate well, this person is a team player. I'd rather go for the team player. You know why? Because science, academics, is not individualistic. You need to be able to collaborate. You need to be able to work. It's a teamwork. So your volunteer activities, your hobbies gives me an idea of who you are outside of the bench, outside of just science, outside of just academics. So these are all important and they play a role in helping to get you that desired scholarship.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Kingsley. So if you were to include your interests and your hobbies, would you write it towards the end, or like where in the CV would you place them?
So I typically will place them after my volunteer activities. So if you look at the layout, volunteer activities is where and somewhere towards the middle, towards the end. So I'll tell it after my volunteer activities. So that gives an idea of what I do to help people and gives an idea of what I do for myself outside of my academics. So I'll place them after my volunteer activities would be my response to that.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Kingsley. So it appears that our moderator Inda is back online. So I'm gonna give the platform back to her, and she can continue the question and answer session with you.
Oh, sure.
All right, thank you, Shebi. And I'm sorry, everyone. Before I have a trouble with my Zoom connection, and now I want to continue for the question and answer session. For the next question, does education achievement increase the possibility to gain a scholarship? Maybe some scholarship meets our research history or volunteer background than our academic achievements. Thank you.
Okay, so yeah, that's a very good question. So, like I've just pointed out, your education, when it comes to scholarships, three things are going to count for you. One is your educational achievements, your high CGPAs, your awards. They're going to count for you. So they greatly increase your chance of getting a scholarship. But they're not the only things that increase your chance of getting a scholarship. So, your volunteer background is also very important. So every scholarship I've found, they always need your volunteer background. They want to see that you've given back to the society, to the community, But they also want to see that you are a good student. So it's a balance between both of them. They want to see both. They want to see that you are doing very well in your school, you have all the highs, the good CGPA, you have the awards, and you're also involved in helping other people. So they are mutually inclusive. You need to have both of them to be competitive for a scholarship. So if you have just one or the other, then the persons that have both are going to be ranked better than you and get the scholarship. So it's important for you to have both of them, the good educational achievement as well as your good volunteer activities and experiences.
All right, thank you. So we need to balance for both of them for educational
Absolutely.
experience and volunteer experience.
Absolutely.
All right, we want to move to the next question. Can competition or Olympiad experience be included in academic CV? Where should it be put, and which point should be pointed out? Is it also give a huge impact for our application?
Okay, so I'm trying to. Sorry, can you take that question again? I can't see it on my screen. I'm just trying to look for it so I can follow it one after the other. Sorry, can you take that question again? If you don't mind, can you take the question again? Okay. So I find you say can competition and Olympiad experience be included in academic CV? Okay, so let me just answer the questions. Okay, a competition or an Olympiad experience. Now, I know there are different kinds of Olympiad experiences. Could be like, I know there are these science Olympiads, there are this, so the academic Olympiads and there are sports Olympiads, right? So I would say, yes, it should be included on your CV. It's part of your, I would say, achievements. It's part of your achievements and you want to highlight that. So you want to let the person see that, you don't just limit your time to science or to the classroom work or to studies. No, but you're also involved in that thing. So I would say, yeah, clearly highlight that. It should be under your awards and achievements. That's where you're going to put it. You should point it out under your award and achievements. And yes, many times it can have a huge impact on your application. Let's say, for example, let's just say hypothetically speaking, for example, you were a gold medalist, at the last Olympics. That just opens doors for you astronomically. It just opens doors for you. Now, this is sports, but you're applying to a scholarship to go study, let's say do a master's in something. For the mere fact that you could take off time to train, prepare, go for a competition and win, it just opens doors for you. Everybody wants to attract you to their university. So I would say, yes, put it under your awards and achievements, Then again, talking about measurable outcomes, Now, it must not always relate to science or protocols or research experiences, No, it's not tied to that, What have you learned during your work experience or during your research experience, and what did that translate to? So it's not always tied to science. I just use science as an example because I have a science background. It could be non-science, but what is that skill? It could even be a people skill, a soft skill, like a people skill that you have acquired. And what did that skill translate into? How did that skill make you a better person? How did that skill help the job to be done? How did that skill get your team to work together? So those are measurable outcomes. So it's not limited to science or research experiences, but the skills are the things you've learned during your academic pursuits or on the job and what it translated to. And again, asking about if the number of publications is significant, I would say yes, it's significant. It's a significant number of publications. Like I just mentioned to you, I got a postdoctoral position at the University of Calgary solely on the strength of my publications. I had quite a number of good publications during my PhD studies with Dr. Ronnie, and that gave me the job. And how to increase your publication as an undergraduate student. I would say the way to increase your publication as an undergraduate student is simply to be interested in research. Now, when I mean research, don't get me wrong. It can be, let's say, a Department of Economics, for example. There are research that are tailored to the Department of Economics. There are research that are tailored to the Department of Pharmacy, to dentistry, whatever those things are. Be interested in research. So if you have like professors, every professor does research. Show interest in what the professor is doing. Get interested. It could just be simple things as helping to collect the data. Simple things as helping to administer questionnaires. Simple things as trying to tabulate the questionnaires. Simple things as that. Helps to get, because in doing that you've contributed to that research, and that puts you on the publication. So I would say the way to increase your publications is to be interested in what research your professors are doing, and get yourself involved. Will be the answer to that question. Yeah.
All right, thank you for your answer. It is a very specific answer for that question. And we want to move to the next question. Regarding to what you have presented, have a specific measurable outcome. What are the other examples of having measurable outcome other than the protocol example that you have mentioned? Does the outcome have to relate to the research experience?
So I would say that the outcome has to be related to what you've done. It could be research. It could be your job. It's like I mentioned, outcomes are not only needed in research. You can be in any fields and you have outcomes. So it could be that you've learned how to use a particular software. How did that translate into something beneficial? So you can use, let's say, the MATLAB software. So in the course of your training, you learned how to use the MATLAB software for your project. How did that translate into something beneficial? Is the measurable outcome. How did your training translate into something that is now beneficial, not just to yourself, not just to your projects, but either to your lab mates or to even the entire department? So yes, it's important to have these measurable outcomes. And these outcomes are not always limited to science or to research. It can be in every aspect of academics, whether in the social sciences, in the arts. It's kind of widespread. How did your training lead to something that can be measured, that is tangible, and then can be applied by other persons? So it's nice to have these measurable outcomes, I would say.
All right, thank you. So outcome should be related to the research that we have done. All right, for the next question, is the number of publications we have published significant? How to increase our publication if we are still undergraduate student?
Okay, so like I did mention, the number of publications I think is important. Like I gave my own example. I got my postdoctoral fellowship, my postdoctoral position solely on the strength of publications. My professor was so impressed that during my PhD, I published quite a number of good papers along with Dr. Ronnie, you know, and she was like, "Oh, you are very productive. I see that you published a lot of paper. I think you can do this job." Even though it was a clearly different research I was going into, so the number of publications is important, I would say. So whatever publication you've contributed to, please put it on your CV. And like I did mention, the only way to get publications as an undergraduate student is to be interested in what your professors are doing. Be interested. If it's just helping your professor to administer questionnaires, be interested. If it's helping your professor to tabulate questionnaires, to extract data from questionnaires, into the format, for publication, be interested, because when you do that, then your names can go into those publications. And I tell you, it's really going to be amazing to find an undergraduate student with publications. It's going to set you apart. It's going to distinguish you very clearly, because not many undergraduate students have publications, not very many. So when you find those that have publications, you just put them in a higher class. They are better ranked than those that don't have. But remember, in addition to your publications, please, your evidence of repeated academic excellence, which is your high CGPA and awards, they're also very important. And then your volunteer activities are also very important. So try and get a balance, of this whole thing, I would say.
All right, thank you. So for all of the undergraduate students here, we need to remind that if you want to increase your publication, you need to get interest to what your professors do. All right, we want to move to the next question. Is the academic CV for medical licensing exam, MCCQE or USML, similar to master or PhD?
So I would say academic CV for medical licensing exam, the MCCQE or SMLE, will be slightly different, but not remarkably different, because for medical licensing exams, probably you are in the medical field, you're still going to be following this organizational layout. It's just the contents that will be different. So the organizational layout is going to be is going to be the same. Your name, your contact information, professional summary, educational background. Here you probably will be adding your license, your licensure. So the different licenses you have, you're going to be included it in this licensing CV. So maybe, for example, you have the fellowship for obstetrics and gynecology, let's say in Indonesia, or the UK fellowship or the Royal College fellowship. You're going to be adding your licensure. So that's one of the things that will be included in your medical licensing CV, academic CV for medical licensing exams. You could be adding that. Of course, your work experiences are going to be the same. Listen, you're going to have work experiences. You're going to talk about the different clinics you've worked, and what your specific roles were in different clinical positions you've had. So I'll say that the structural layout, organizational layout is the same. The one big difference I see there is a licensure. You're going to add in your different licenses you have, from different specific bodies. Other than that, I think they are fairly the same. Of course, the content would differ under the different headings. The content will differ, but by and large, looking at the global picture, when you add your licensure sub title to it, that kind of like makes it, very, very similar to what you do for the master's and PhD.
All right, thank you for your answer. And we are nearing the end of the time for questions and answer. So maybe we only have time for two more questions.
Yeah, sure.
For the first one, I have a question regarding volunteer experience. Sometimes volunteering doesn't come with certificate or validation. Is it okay to put it on our CV?
Oh, so yeah, so you don't So it's not so many volunteer experiences or many volunteer activities don't come with certificates, and that's just fine. That's fine. The question is, have you volunteered? Have you given back to your community? So I would say that as long as you volunteered, you've given back to your community, please put it down in your CV. Now, I think that volunteer activities that are consistent have more weight. Let's say, for example, over the past, over the past 1 year, you and a group of other persons work as a team to consistently go to, let's say, the seniors' homes, the elderly homes, and just help them with some things. Let's say 1 hour a week, or 1 hour in 2 weeks, or 2 hours a month, consistently. Let's say for 2019 to 2020. Now, those kind of volunteer activities have a lot of weight, as opposed to a one-time thing. Let's say you just went and did it for one time, 1 day, and that's it. That may just look like, oh, a one-time shot. But volunteer activities that are consistent for a specific period of times, they tend to have more weight than a single volunteer one-time activity. And it does not have to come with a certificate. It doesn't, as long as you did it consistently and you can speak to it, because when you face the panel, so that they can just take you on your volunteer experiences. Like, okay, tell me about these volunteer experiences you and this group of people, engaged in to the elderly in your community. They can take you on that. So you must be ready to speak very clearly to it. You don't have to have a certificate for it. It's the short and long of this of the answer. As long as you did what you said you did, because you can be asked questions on it.
All right, thank you. So it's possible to write our volunteer experience if it doesn't have certificate, because the more important thing is what's your experience in your volunteer. All
Absolutely.
right. For the last question, is it possible to get into a different field for our master's or doctoral studies compared to our bachelor degree? I am curious about your dentistry background because you are now affiliated in neuro research and it is quite different. Thank you.
Yeah. Okay. So yeah. So it's very, very possible. So let me tell you this. So I have seen doctors. So let me answer this. I've seen doctors whose first degree was law. They studied law. So their first degree was law, and then they came back to do medicine. Now, they're equally doctors whose first degree were engineering. So the way medicine work at the University of Calgary, for example, you need to have a first degree before you can apply to the medical school at the University of Calgary. And across Canada, you need to have a first degree. So your first degree, does not stop you from doing something different. I'm telling you that I've seen people who are lawyers that went and did medicine, or they are engineers and they came and did medicine. So it's very, very possible to have a recent dentistry, in biochemistry, in whatever. You can just go pursue something completely different as long as you are competent. So the key word here is competence. Can you take on this new study you're interested in? Let's say your first degree is in microbiology, for example. You want to go and do a master's, let's say in, I don't know, medical genetics or something. The key word is competence. My first degree is in dentistry. I agree that dentistry have elements of biochemistry, microbiology, and other things to it. But I've always been fascinated by bench work research. I've always been interested in bench work, doing bench work research. And that's one of the things that motivated me to go do a PhD, in Japan, where I was looking at persistent organic pollutants on thyroid hormone signaling and brain development, because I've always been fascinated by this kind of things. So to cut long story short, your background can be in dentistry. You want to go and pursue a master's in medical genetics, a master's or a PhD in medical genetics, you are more than welcome. So it doesn't impede you. Now, let me also be very clear that there are some fields that you must have a similar background. So take, for example, like engineering, for example. If you want to go and do a master's in engineering in most universities in Canada, they will tell you that you should have a relevant or similar background in your bachelor's. So not every field allows you to move from one bachelor's to another. Engineering could be very specific. They want you to have your bachelor's in engineering and then pursue your master's in engineering and PhD in engineering, although it could be slightly different fields. But some other fields like the medical sciences is a bit, medical sciences, biological sciences is a bit open because we incorporate a lot of engineering just to make that distinction that while the medical fields could be very open, engineering field is not as open as that.
All right, thank you. This is very impressive because it doesn't matter if it's different with our first background study, but it's matter with your interest and what you're complete. All right, maybe we have one additional question
Oh,
from the
sure.
earlier question that I forgot to mention. The question is, should we put our GPA on our CV?
Oh, yeah. So I encourage persons to do that because, okay, so I'll say this. I'll encourage you to put your CGPA on CV. So let's say, for example, uh, graduated from Human Anatomy, University of Padjadjaran, you know, CGPA 4.5 over 5, you know, that is very catchy. So when I look at that CGPA, wow, this is a top student, you know. And when you put your CGPAs on your CVs like that, if it's possible, and in most science, they would always ask you to enclose your transcripts. So whatever CGP you're putting in your CV, please, your transcript should align. They should align properly, right? So to answer your question, yes, it's just at first glance can give a very clear idea to the interview board or to the scholarship board that, look, we're dealing with a very high ranking student here. You know, CGP of 4.5 over 5, this is high ranking, for example. So yes, you can put your CGPs on your CV, and I think it's a good stuff. Yeah.
All right, thank you. So we should need to put our CGP on our CV. And this is the last question for this question and answer session. Thank you, Dr. Kingsley, for answering the questions. And also thank you for sharing with us about CV for international scholarship.
Yeah,
Before
very
this
welcome.
event, yes, before this event comes to a close, Dr. Kingsley, do you have any final words for us?
So my final word would be that if I can get to where I am now, every one of you can. And the simple reason is this. I did my bachelor's at the University of Benin in Nigeria. I did my master's at the University of Benin in Nigeria, you know, and the differences in research quality and facilities is vastly different between what I found in Japan and what it's in Calgary. But still, I was able to do very well. I was able to excel. I was able to publish those papers and, you know, do the different things I'm doing now. So every one of you listening, you have all it takes to succeed. You have everything within you to be the best that you can be. So just looking at me, if I could go from Nigeria to Japan, then to Canada, and I'm succeeding, you can even do more. So that is my closing remark. If I can, you can too. Thank you.
All right, this is a very impressive final word. If Dr. Kingsley can, all of you can. All right, today we learned about a well-written CV is important. We learned how to understand to make a CV outstanding, about common CV errors from the perspective or international students, and the most important thing, your CV represents that speaks a lot about your personality. So you need to prepare and pay attention to the details of your CV. But remind that your CV is not only about you, but what you can give to the others with your experience. Also, if you want to know further and connect to Dr. Kingsley, you can also subscribe him on YouTube at Kingsley Ibhazehiebo because I see that there are many educative videos about CV and scholarship. And hopefully from this event, I hope that all of you can implement Dr. Kingsley's knowledge to make a good CV for international scholarship. And also, it is an honor for me to be your moderator today. I have a quote that I want to share with all of you. Don't wait for the opportunity, but create it. I hope that your CV can bring a good opportunity for all of you. I am Indah Prilani Sandra. Thank you. I will give it back to Fada.
Okay, thank you, Indah, for being today's event moderator. And also thank you for Sabrina for backup the Q&A session. And of course, thank you for Dr. Kingsley, our amazing speaker. That was really a great webinar with many insightful pieces of information about writing an academic CV. So thank you so much, Dr. Kingsley. And now, as a token of our appreciation, we would like to invite Sabrina Maharani, the Vice General Manager of the International Office, Universitas Pajajaran, to present the e-certificate on behalf of Dr. Roni, the head of the International Office, to our speaker, Dr. Kingsley, and to our moderator, Indah.
Thank you, Fada. So I would like to thank Dr. Kingsley. Here's our e-certificate, which we will also email to you after this event so you can have a nice PDF copy of it. But I would really love to, so this is the certificate for Dr. Kingsley and also for our moderator as well. For Indah Apriliani Sandra, thank you very much for being our moderator for today. So before we close, I would just like to have a few final words. On behalf of the International Office, I would like to sincerely thank you, Dr. Kingsley, for taking the time to share your extremely detailed presentation with us. I know it's already nighttime there.
Yeah, it's
so
okay.
Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Thank you as well for answering so many of our questions, even though unfortunately we didn't get the time to answer all of them, but everyone knows we can also find Dr. Kingsley on YouTube and Facebook. So maybe your questions have already been answered there. Please go check that out as well. And we also hope that the International Office can work together again with Dr. Kingsley for future events. And
Absolutely.
You can share your tens of years of experience with us at a later date.
Yeah, absolutely. I look forward to that. Yeah,
it was a pleasure.
With you guys, yeah.
Thank you, Dr. Kingsley. It was a pleasure having you here today with us. And to the attendees, thank you all for coming today. I hope that the information presented is useful to each and every one of you. I wish everyone success and health. Thank you once again and have a wonderful day.
Yeah, thank you very much.
And now giving it back to Fada, our MC. Thank you, Fada, for the opportunity.
Okay, thank you, Sabrina, for the speech. Okay, participants, finally we have reached the end of this event. Once again, we would like to remind all participants to fill our attendance and feedback form in the link that we have shared in order to get your e-certificate of participation. Also, we would like to inform that International Office Universitas Pajajaran will have an upcoming event. Yes, we will have EJO and Tenri University Exchange Program sharing session. We will live from our Instagram, so for further information, please check our social media. And don't forget to follow our social media on Instagram, LinkedIn, and YouTube. That's all for today. I'm Fada. Thank you and see you at the next Universitas Pajajaran International Office event. Bye.
Yeah, bye everyone.
Thank you, Dr. Kingsley.
Yeah, thank you very much for having me. Thank you very much, and yeah, hope we can have such kind of conversations again. Yeah, thank you.
All right.
Yeah, bye.
Thank you,
Bye.
doctor.
Yeah,
Thanks
thank
a
you very much.
lot.
Yeah, thank you.
Before we just close the Zoom meeting, maybe we can go back to the panelist chat. Okay, perfect. We wanted to have a photo with all the committee
Yay!
and with Dr. Kingsley, if you don't mind.
Yeah.
Just a
Oh
few
yeah,
more minutes.
that's fine. That's absolutely fine. Yeah,
Hey, doctor, let's have a photo together.
sure.
Okay, so